Lovely. Well, I wanted to touch on to start today's lesson on the archetypes. Now, hands up, if anyone's heard of a archetype before? You have one? No worries. Okay, so this is a fundamental core to Jungian psychology, and basically, an archetype is a universal symbol. Um, it's a theme that runs deeply in the human psyche. So it acts as a template for basically our experiences and our narratives and how we can derive meaning. So it basically resonates through all cultures and time. These are the stories that we tell ourselves, whether you are back in the Bronze Age sitting around a campfire telling a story, or if you're in modern Hollywood. These archetypes are the same structure and personality types and basically the makeup that you see in these stories. Um, and I want to talk about one of these archetypes, which is called the hero. Um, the hero is not just a character in a story, it represents our innate potential to rise above challenges and limitations. The hero's journey is a metaphor for personal growth and is basically embodying the spirit of transformation and resilience. We all know that the hero story is always the main protagonist in all the Hollywood movies. Um, and it begins with an ordinary individual, one who does not start as a hero. It's someone who is called to venture beyond their comfort zones. They are called to face the unknown. The journey is marked by trials, tribulations. There's always drama. There's always things that the hero needs to overcome. And it ultimately leads for them to self discovery and mastery. And it begins with a call, an invitation to step out of their comfort zone. You might see, like, say, the story of Conan. His village is invaded, and his tribe's people are basically killed, and he is swept away and taken as a slave boy. His call to action is basically one of revenge, but that's the origin of his story. He's taken out of his comfort zone, is his the safety of his village. Um, and for us personally, this happens in many different ways. In some ways, we'll be called to an adventure or a challenge or to step outside of our comfort zone in many ways in our day-to-day lives. And what we're doing here with shadow work is absolutely a call to action. It's a call to step out of our comfort zone and step into something new and a little bit uncomfortable. So that's something that I want you guys to just try to embody and embrace the hero archetype, to be bold, to be brave, to understand that we're going to be stepping deep inside of ourselves into our internal danger zones. But it's okay because what this is defining for us. It gives us depth of character and it gives us something when we overcome these problems, we have a reason to celebrate ourselves as well. And keeping that in mind, this call to action of the hero, um, I want to start to face something in us today, and that's called the inner critic. Have you guys heard the term inner critic before? You have? Yeah, wonderful. So you guys would know a little bit about it, I hope. Um, so the inner critic is basically something inside of you which, well, I will call the fear mind state. It's the part of you that is absolutely terrified um, of the idea of choice. It doesn't want you to know that you can choose to be happy and choose to be non-reliant on the critic. Um, I like to basically just use the whiteboard here and do a little drawing here. So we have the critic, and it's not a very happy sort of chap. This critic is someone who um, is very, very trapped, saying, I have no choice. Now it's a bit of a bully. It's a voice inside of you that basically tells you that you're ugly, that you're fake, that you're useless, that it's a part of you that is hyper jealous. Um, and it doesn't think that there's anything outside of it. Alternatively, there's a state of you that's happy. A little smiley face. Yeah. That's the happy you. That's the part of you that's absolutely genuine. And it's a part of you that is real. And it's a part of you that is also just authentic. Now, anyone who's looking at this going, right, well, why the hell would I ever listen to my inner critic when it wants me to feel like I have no choice, wants me to be in pain, wants me to suffer, wants to tell me all these negative things? The reason why the critic is so prevalent in people's minds and people choose it is because it's a bit of a trickster. So when we basically listen to these voices in us that are telling us all this negative thing, we listen because it presents a false choice inside of it. There's a dichotomy that occurs, and it's basically it presents itself not as one single thing. It presents itself as two different distinct choices. And this is something to understand because I think that most of us, to some degree, are in this state, and that's why I want to talk about it because it's important that we don't stick here, we don't stay here. Um, One part of it basically is your unresolved shadows, and the other part is the persona. Now, you probably know a lot of people who are stuck in this state. The the shadow part of you, miserable as usual, it says a lot of things like, you're ugly, you're fake, you'll fail. Just that constant niggling voice in the back of your head that's always constantly telling you that. And this becomes silenced in this choice. So you can only feel it, you can't really see it at all. But the part of you instead that it presents as the choice is also miserable. This part of you is your persona. So it goes, all right, well, you can be popular, you can be successful, and you can be attractive. And it promises you all these things. This is a state of mind where you lose yourself in your persona. You're not being genuine. You're not being your happy, real, authentic self. Instead, when you're listening to this inner critic and it takes over with these choices, it's like, oh, suppress all your dark shadows and all the horrible things that you feel about yourself and project everything in your persona of, I won't be loved until I'm popular. I won't be loved until I'm successful. I won't be loved until I am attractive in all the right ways. Anything less than perfection, this thing will take over in this fake dichotomy. Um, but if we want to basically break through to this, we want to get rid of this dichotomy here. We want to start asking questions in ourselves about it. Challenge these parts of yourself if you recognize them. If, does that make sense? Raise your hand if it makes sense. If not, unmute yourself. You can ask a question. That's okay. Yeah, Daniela?
Please repeat what's the first three on the left side in the bubble?
In this one here?
Yes.
Oh, this is basically beliefs in the shadow. This one just says, I'm ugly, I'm fake, I'm a failure. These are just some examples of some of these aspects of ourselves that we try to avoid and deny. It's those horrible voices that bubble up inside of you. Um,
It
and
doubts
it's
you.
when you follow the fear, the negative mind state of the inner critic, yeah, it can lead you to basically having these beliefs about yourself, never challenging them, and then just overcompensating by investing fully in the persona, um, and saying that, oh, if I say have a million friends, then maybe I'll be loved. If I can start a successful business and make $1 million, then I can be loved. But it's all conditional. This is all a fake belief system of not being genuine. At the end of the day, we can choose to be happy no matter what our situation is. It's a choice. I really just want to highlight that. Um, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, what's the first point on the persona bubble? The top one? Can't read it.
Oh, the persona bubble. Here. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
These are just examples. So popular. I'm not a very neat writer. Sorry about
Popular.
that. Popular. Yeah. Successful, attractive. Things that we kind of say, oh, if I can do this, I'll be loved. I'll love myself. Uh, so you'll have your own examples of that yourself. Like, do you find that there's anything that you feel like that if you can connect to it? That you have a conditional, I can't love myself until da da da. Could
So
you
it's
think
a
of it?
coping mechanism.
It is, yes. Yes, this is the whole mechanism of the inner critic. And yeah, I would say that probably most people actually have this at play, this inner critic dichotomy to some degree. Some people are deeply lost in it, and you can tell those people are super superficial. And some people are just have a little bit of it. You know, it's not a huge problem for them, but it's definitely there. Daniela, you had a question before. Is she there? Might have lost her for a second. That's all right. No worries.
Yeah, yes, it's all good. Sorry, Ryan. I said, yes, I understand. I was raising the hand to say I understand.
Wonderful. Excellent. So yeah, as I said, the inner critic that hates the choice that you can be free and happy without that whole process. So I'd definitely encourage you guys just to really try and listen deeply and take note if you notice that process happening in you, where you start noticing, okay, my love for myself is conditional because of this and this and this. That's my inner critic. And you can have dialogues with that part of yourself. Um, you can talk to it and say, no, I am already lovable. No, I don't need $1 million to be loved. I can already love myself. I can already choose to be happy. And we can start challenging that part of ourselves directly. And very important to do. Now, quick question. When looking at the law of attraction, it's bringing up. So, law of attraction. When looking at this person here, the happy, real, genuine, authentic person, or the person that's stuck in the persona shadow dichotomy of the inner critic, which one do you think is going to be most attracting all the things that they love and want into their life? Who's going to be the most powerful manifester here? Oh, my camera just got stuck. Oh dear. 1 second, guys. Oh, that's fixed. Okay, cool. So yeah, I was just saying, the happy person here, or the person stuck in the shadow persona, who's going to have the best chance of attracting luck, wealth, like real connection into their life?
Of course, the authentic one.
Of course, yeah. So what's the authentic person doing differently? Like if you guys were going to be absolutely there, what would you need to do differently to what you might be doing now within yourself?
Well, it's about self-love and having a higher vibration and being your genuine, authentic self.
Absolutely. But do you think that this person who's been genuine and real and authentic, do you think that they're denying any aspects of themselves, or are they completely embracing all, like every aspect of themselves?
I think that person is not taking himself too importantly, just concentrating on a situation. It's not about me, me, me. It's about what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like so they're present, they're self-aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are conscious and aware, and they are not permanently comparing themselves to the situation. It's not about personality. If something is happening, it's happening, and then you can act, or you can say, oh my God, it's about me, they don't like me, or whatever.
That's it. Yeah. The critic takes over and just, they start thinking about all their little faults and everything they're saying, and like all this burning energy, I can't be loved because my legs are fat. I can't be loved because, I look terrible in this shirt. It takes over. Yeah.
There it is again. I.
Absolutely.
When I sometimes argue with someone, then the person takes it personally instead of argue about the thing, about the theme. They take it personally.
Well, for some people, the theme might not be personal for you, and it might be very personal for them. But when we can have conversations that reach common ground, it's much easier to do that when you are being authentic and genuine to yourself and just being real. You don't need to compensate. Maybe you've invested too much into an argument you really don't need to have, because it's not important to you when you really love yourself. And when you really love yourself, you can really love others. And that's just being real. Because we're social survivors. We need each other to survive. So it's in our best interest to be genuine and really love and embrace each person around us as much as possible. Yeah. So law of attraction, why are so many people in the spiritual field so terrible at this? Why are so many people in the spiritual field broke? That's like a lot of people masters of like basically holding an intention and holding like, I'm going to be successful and wealthy. I'm going to do this and that, and nothing's going to stop me. And they're brilliant at investing in that. But really, we are in a constant state where everything that we have now is actually exactly what we want. And it seems counterintuitive, but when do you take into account that you're not just your ego, you're also your shadow. Your shadow is a very powerful manifester. And everything that your shadow wants, it's also manifesting through the law of attraction. And so if we ever want to bring ourselves out of this into just the happy, authentic, real person and become masters of law of attraction, of basically turning our will into exactly what we need and we know is good for us in life, then we're going to have to do some of the work in clearing out some of these shadow aspects of ourselves. And it empowers us. It makes us very, very strong people. There's a process I like to use to do that. Now, that is through understanding the cycle of self-sabotage. Pen is no good. Sticking on. Okay, second. Okay. Now, cycle of self-sabotage is basically what we do to keep ourselves from achieving anything, because what we don't want is more powerful than what we do want. You basically have yourself here. You have your goal, you have your dream, you have your vision, you have exactly what you want. And connected to this goal is the ego or the self, your consciousness, you're directly interacting, saying, this is the goal I want. And you're investing your energy into that, you're holding it, you're maintaining it. If this was a perfect world and you were unaffected, and you didn't have a whole bunch of things in your shadow self affecting this, then we could make anything happen. It'd be basically like demigods. There's nothing that we can't achieve because we're very powerful creators, all of us. But right underneath this is your basically the part of you which is the self-limitations, you can call it, or limited beliefs. This part of you here is getting involved with the ego, with the self, before it even gets to like manifesting the goal. It's directly influencing. So let's say that you were invited to do a talk at a conference, for instance, and you're asked to step onto stage, and you're going to give basically a big, awesome talk. It's going to help a lot of people, and it's going to help yourself get noticed, and it's going to be great for your career. But in your self-limitations, you have so much fear about standing in front of people that there's no way in hell, you could get past that before you could get to your goal. And so what you do is you make up an excuse, or I'm sick that day, or you'll find a way to get out of it because you're more invested in the self-limitations than you are in what you're actually seeking to achieve. And in that, we are always in the state that we're now at in our life, always in the place that we want to be, at the core and in the conscious. Below that, obviously, we have the shadows. So this is like your fears, the parts of you suppressed. They create the self-limitations. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah, so the parts of you which are just locked away and below the hidden line, that's the part of you that if we want to get to our goal, we have to work backwards. First, we have to examine the self-limitations, and through that, examine the shadow itself, integrate the shadow into our conscious ego, and then from that point there, we can start to actually achieve the things we really want to achieve in our lives. Do you guys have any major goals that you keep putting off? Can anyone think of any yourselves now? Feel free to share with the group as well.
So I've been writing a book for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Is there a reason why it's taken so long?
Excuses I make to myself.
Right.
Fear of failure.
Right. Fear of failure. You just hit the nail straight to the head, didn't you? So you've reflected on this before. You've looked at this.
Oh, I'm just annoying myself about it now. Yeah, it's just, yeah.
Right. So you got your book is there. You've got your self-limitations of fear of so if you succeed, you're afraid you'll lose what? So if you finish your book,
yeah,
what are you afraid is going to happen if you finish your book?
Oh, that no one's going to buy it, or I'll only make a few sales and it'll get bad reviews. And it's a book. It's quite a personal book. It's a self-help book, and yeah, I put a lot of very personal stuff in it with the goal of helping other people. But it's very it will help people, but it's also very yeah.
It sounds to me like see how this sits with you. Are you more afraid of no one buying the book and getting bad reviews, or you're more afraid of people judging you because you're putting out something so personal? Because you're exposing yourself.
Good question.
Is there something in that book that you're trying to actually hide from the world?
No, I think it is more about the fear of failure, because I've written so many things before and no one's bought them. And then write something this personal and it just means nothing to anybody is, yeah, that would upset me.
Right. Okay. Well, actually, this is a good segue. I want to move into something called shadow questions. And so let's actually start challenging this part of you, and let's try and discover and find this part of you that's stopping yourself from putting the book out. Because it might on the surface, it might seem like you're just afraid of it failing. But below that, there might actually be something in the shadow that we can examine and address. There's no guarantee that it's going to fail just because it has before. Every successful person in the world fails 1,000 times before they hit a big success. And this could be it for you. And you're stopping yourself because of this fear. So shadow questions. This is something that is basically a process where we ask ourselves direct emotional questions. And this is a tool that you can use any time in your life. Once you know this, you can just use it and challenge yourself and always find ways to improve your view of yourself this way. These aren't to be answered with logic or reason. We're trying to get past the analytical mind with these questions. We want to go into the core, into the emotional state of ourselves with it. So I'm going to ask you just 5 questions, and we can go even further with it later if you want. But I want you to think deeply and just write down with a pen and paper the immediate responses that you get when you ask yourself this. The first is, why is success not for me? Why can't I succeed? Why am I not good enough to succeed? Second, why do I hate myself? The third, what am I hiding? What am I afraid people will see about me? Yep.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I was still writing. Could you, what was the third question?
So it's, why is success not for me? Why am I not good enough? Why do I hate myself? What am I afraid people will see? And lastly, why does life have to be hard for me? If you need me to go through it again, that's okay. I can. Yeah, so how'd you guys go? How'd you go, Danielle?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Yes, the first thing which comes to mind
Mm,
is good, but because we're so good of telling ourselves a story,
we are.
how do you overbridge you telling yourself a story, because yes, the first thing comes to your mind, but that's not essentially always the truth.
That's right. Well, it's not necessarily true. What we're finding here is what comes up in your core. You can feel it. You know the difference between your mind making up a story and what you actually in the core feel. So we're using our emotions as a guide here. Again, the shadows, whatever it believes, doesn't necessarily make it real. It's just what it believes. Of course, if someone says like you don't deserve success, the mind's going to go, "Oh, of course I deserve success." The brain automatically does that. But if you feel it, why don't I deserve it? You actually let yourself get to the core. Like, oh, because you're ugly. Something will come up to meet it. It doesn't matter what the answer is. What we're doing is we're finding these things in us, in this shadow part of us, because it's creating self-limitations, and that's affecting our ego, and that's affecting our goals. So we need to be authentic. We need to be real with these answers. What do you really feel about it?
I was wondering if we ask ourselves one of these questions,
sure,
either, and then answering it by the persona, by the shadow, and by the authentic self.
Yeah.
What would each of these persons say?
I see. Yep. So your persona is more involved in obviously projecting what you want the world to see about you. Yeah. So if your core belief is some way picked up in your life, I'm ugly, your persona usually will compensate by trying to project the opposite, because it believes that you can't be loved until people see you as not ugly. So it's going to try and compensate by trying to be as attractive as possible. It's going to compensate. Maybe it's going to try and create a bubbly personality, or get really, really great at jokes, or try to be as appealing as possible. The ego itself, the conscious self, usually it acts as suppression and denial. Like I was talking about the other day, like the projection, the denialism, because it makes it feel, no one likes to feel bad. And so when we consciously start thinking about this about ourselves, we'll either deny it, suppress it, or we'll just get really, really sad and feel bad about ourselves and sit with it for a bit. And we'll try and, everyone's different with how they'll cope with that. With the shadow, it's feeling that as a timeless lock. So that belief that's sitting there, it'll never change. It'll always just be exactly as it is and always feeling the way it's feeling. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yes. And how about the authentic self?
Well, the authentic self. Okay, cool. That's a good question. Your authentic self will say, okay, but even if I do believe that about myself, I'm worthy of love. Even if I'm quote ugly, that's other people's problem. I love me.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. Yeah, because we all carry these 4 types, or 3 types would be almost enough in ourselves. Every time we encounter a problem or self-doubt or criticism.
That's right. Yeah.
So we have a choice.
We do, absolutely. I mean, there's some of these. The inner critic it's an important function. It's good to have a critic to check in with you from time to time. The problem is when it takes over and it becomes chronic, and that's when it becomes very toxic in people, and it can really, really affect people's lives. It strips people away from genuine human connections. You're always on the defensive. These people who are always defending themselves constantly. They never let anyone in. They're kind of lost in that. That's just a hard persona, blocking everyone. Yeah. So letting people in, it's not scary. We can be vulnerable. We can be authentic. We can be really happy. And yeah. Danielle, would you like to, I'd love for you to share, if possible. I'd love to actually go around and share some of the answers that you guys came up with. We'll just be a bit real with each other for a minute.
Okay. So why is success not for me? I only written 3 questions down because you went a bit too fast for me.
I did, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. it came up, I do not feel good enough.
Right. Now, here's an opportunity for you to ask, why don't you feel good enough? Why are you not good enough? What I want you guys to become now is detectives. You're Sherlock Holmes on your own case. And you can imagine, for instance, the hero archetype. If you follow one of their stories, they don't have their entire set in one location. They'll go to the mountain, and then they'll find clues because they're always after the big bad guy. Then they'll go to the castle, and then they might go through the underground cavern, and then they'll find the lair of the evil bad guy. And that's your absolute shadow. So I want us to follow that. So basically asking a trail of questions now and uncovering deeper and deeper each time what's below. So what is that for you? Why are you not good enough?
Because it's different. I'm different.
You're different. So why are you different? What makes you different?
I don't fit in.
Right. So what would happen if you just never fit in anywhere? Would you still be able to love yourself?
It'd be very hard because I feel very alone.
Do you think that maybe the fear of being alone is actually sitting underneath deep the fear of being different?
No.
That's often one of the biggest shadows for a lot of people. Are you sure it's definitely not that? Because social isolation is one of the biggest threats to our survival.
No, I enjoy my alone time, actually.
Yeah.
I do enjoy my alone time. So I don't actually feel it's that.
Right.
It feels like more, it's like people not gonna understand me. Like I'm talking a different language. That's not so much being alone. That's not really, it's like people won't understand what I'm saying.
Right. So you want people to understand you. You want to be understood. You have a fear that people won't understand.
No. Yeah.
So if no one understands and sees you, what does that mean for you?
I am alone.
Right. Well.
Yeah, I am alone. And
yeah,
I'm alone. I'm not afraid to be alone, but I am alone.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like not in terms of socialism, but in terms of if nobody talks your language, it makes it hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So not alone as in alone, but not in relationship to a partner, but I do feel like that's that aloneness where people don't really get me, who I am. Yeah.
Well, that'd be just something to, just hold at some point. Take some time and just hold that and understand it and connect to it deeply.
Okay.
Have a conversation with that part of yourself that feels that misunderstood. And you might find something underneath that, you might not, but the more we get in touch with these parts of ourselves, and the more we can be genuine and authentic. And the more, again, we break this, we diminish the shadow, because everything's starting to become seen. We're starting to become more and more conscious of it. So it's having less and less impact on our self-limitation.
Okay.
And that's how this whole process works.
So would it be a good tool to pick one word and then go to the next word and the next word and the next word?
You have to be very careful that your mind doesn't keep things on the surface. That because your mind will interfere. It'll try and go, right, I'm going to pull it back up to here and pull it back up to here. Yeah. But shadow questions, while they're an amazing tool, it's not always gonna, like, in 5 minutes flat, you're not gonna find what you're looking for. Sometimes it's a journey. Sometimes we have to be, again, brave, and we have to engage in this practice fairly regularly to go deeper and deeper into ourselves and really find the core of this stuff. Remember what I said in the first lesson is the longer a shadow stays unconscious, the blacker and denser it gets. So that's why it's important to do this maintenance work, this upkeep, is to keep delving into these deeper parts of ourselves and not let these parts of ourselves get darker and blacker and denser, because they will powerfully manifest self-sabotage in our lives. And they'll hold you back from achieving what you're really capable of achieving in your life. The fears will just dominate us. And if we're going to be truly light beings, then we need to make the room for the light by clearing out the dark, so to speak. These 5 questions are basically the most commonly common shadow leading questions, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily applicable to everyone. Yeah, that's okay. Cornelia, would you like to share one of your answers?
Yeah, sure. Which question would you like me to answer?
Well, it means share whichever you like.
Okay, well, so for the first question, you know, why am I not good enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or what was it? It was why is success not for me? Like
why is success not for me? Yeah.
So like Daniela, I also wrote down I'm not good enough. And then when I look deeper into that, you know, I wrote down, you know, I was mediocre at school. I was always I didn't stand out at anything. I got sort of average grades, same at university. And I still feel that way often, that there's no real validation or proof that I'm good at what I do. I mean, I get it sometimes, but it just feels hollow.
So here's a shadow question. Again, it's not accusatory. You don't need to defend yourself or anything, but I'm going to ask, what comes up if I ask you, like, why are you so mediocre?
I'm a bit of a sort of jack of all trades, master of none. I flip from thing to thing.
That's a mental answer. What about in an emotional answer, like really real emotion? What comes up when you feel like, I am mediocre? I feel so goddamn mediocre. Why?
Well, it just seems that everyone else is better than me.
So what does that mean for you? Like, if everyone's better than you, why aren't you the best?
Because I'm not clever enough.
So why aren't you clever? Are you dumb?
I'm neurodiverse.
Right.
And it takes me longer to learn stuff. It takes me longer to do stuff. It takes me longer to get my head around stuff.
Maybe, but do you feel that you're not clever?
I don't know. What is clever?
Well, it's your definition. How you define clever, really? Did you want to stand out in school?
Yeah.
You want to be the best, the top dog?
Yeah. Yeah, or at
Right.
least maybe not at everything, but it'd been nice to have been top in something.
Well, you could be a top author. You don't have to be a best-selling author to have written an amazing book. You don't have to sell 1 million copies. You only need to sell 1 or 2, and you've written a fantastic book you can be proud of. So what's stopping you from really loving yourself and being proud of yourself? Do you have to be the top dog, or can you just be happy with who you are?
know. I guess yeah, things just feel like such a struggle times. And if I'm not earning enough money to sustain myself, I feel like a failure.
Hmm.
So I tie my self-worth to my income, I guess, to
Right.
some extent.
Well, what if you examine the idea that your self-worth and your income are actually completely different things, and they're not tied in together at all?
It's very hard to separate.
Yeah. But if you want to get to this point of genuinely loving yourself, it has to be unconditional. If you can start to live that, you might find that things actually start changing as well, gradually, bit by bit in your life. Your income can go up. You might achieve things that you didn't think you could when you genuinely accept and love yourself, no matter what your circumstance. You could be a hobo living in a box in the street, an utter failure. You could truly, absolutely love yourself, and you'll have the strength to reinvent yourself. But if we give in to self, like defeating ideas, the inner critic, it will constantly sabotage us and stop us from succeeding. And we're more likely to be financially unsuccessful as well. The love is the releasing block. Love is an answer for breaking negative patterns. Yeah, I just want to this really hit that home because it's very important to understand. And thank you so much for opening up and sharing that, by the way. I think we touched something because there's a bit of a tear. That's actually good. Like the tears are beautiful. It's drawing the poison out of our soul every time we cry. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's beautiful. Okay. The last thing I want to do today, we're almost at an hour already, but wow, time flies, doesn't it? I want to do one last little exercise so that you guys know about it. It's basically called shadow summoning. So shadow summoning is a process by which you can communicate with your own inner shadows directly, and you can get some really good clues, just like detectives we are. We're figuring out where the final boss is, our hero. And love a volunteer to go through the process. Yep, wonderful. Okay. So, shadow summoning. It's basically what I'd like you to do. Do you have this is going to help if you have a goal in mind that you've been stopping yourself from achieving. Maybe something big, a dream, something fairly major. Is there anything that comes to your mind with that?
Having more success in what I do now since a year in real estate, penetrating the market more. It's not an easy one, not an easy one, and I could list a few excuses why how it is, why it is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that's a fairly easy one because obviously the real estate market is what it is. It makes it harder to sell things. Is there anything maybe? I mean, we could work on that if you like. Because there's so much that's out of your hands as well. It's a difficult one to work with. Does that make sense? Like, is there anything that you had a dream of doing that you just never started?
Well, I have a similar project going on, writing a book, and I started it, but it's not as far as Cornelius.
Okay.
Great ideas, everything is great, but I just don't find the time. I don't sit down and do the work on it.
Okay, that's probably something better to work with. Okay, so there's a part of you, just like there is in every other person, that is basically going to basically stifle you. It's going to stop you from starting this book or continuing it or doing anything major or significant or worthwhile with it. What I want you to do is embody that part of yourself. Become that part of yourself, the part of that you can connect to that's stopping.
Well, that part of myself would choose to do things that has nothing to do with the book, distracting myself.
Right. Is there a part of you that you could feel that's actually resistant to sitting down for the next 2 weeks and actually doing it and achieving it and just finishing it?
Well, yeah,
Daniela, yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry. Had a quick question. Yeah.
How do you actually embody that?
Well, it's basically allowing yourself to connect to it and answer questions from its perspective. This is just an emotionally intuitive way of doing things. Some people it's a little easier. Most people, if you have something that's really needing to come out, it's going to make itself obvious at this point when you make the room for it. So embody that as best as you can, that part of yourself. Don't worry about what the mind's necessarily saying. I want you to allow yourself to feel real, like genuine, like a real emotional state. Is there a part of you that's blocking that?
Yes, the part in me that's blocking it is the part that's happy and satisfied with what I have. So I don't have high enough pain level to do it.
Okay. Actually, that answer does make a lot of sense. It's sometimes it does require, like, there's got to be a cost to not doing it to motivate us to actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some motivator, some pain threshold. Why would you start a book though if you had actually no need or intention of actually finishing it?
Yeah, that's the thing. If I finish it, I'm sure it would be great, but at the same time, there's no pain level that pushes me towards it.
Is that the only real motivator that you have in your life? Is it has to be pain or discomfort that makes me do something?
No, there is positive outcomes as well. So something motivates me that supposedly is beautiful or rewarding, then I go for it. And
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I think I have to write a list why I should write the book, all the reasons, and then motivate on that.
Oh, sure. Something that you might find much easier is you do it because it makes you happy. That's it. It's just, I enjoy this and I'm going to do it. That's it.
So that would be one of many reasons it would make me happy, and it does make me happy.
Yeah.
The content makes me happy, and the outcome would make me happy too. So yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be very difficult to do shadow summoning with this in mind because a lot of times the shadow summoning is actually when you're stopping yourself from doing something and the motivation is actually quite a powerful emotional reason. In the case of the book, it might not be. It might simply just be a priority issue, that's all. Yeah. That's okay. So, well, I can explain the process of the shadow summoning at least. And that's basically that you embody that and you ask yourself certain questions. Like, are you trying to protect this person? Why are you trying to protect them? And you sort of just have that internal conversation with the part of you that's rising up, like fear of starting, say, a business. You might be terrified of that. Start talking to that part of yourself. Start asking it why it's afraid. You know, is there something that's happened in the past that may have caused that fear? Is there a type of person you try and protect from? When did it start? All these kinds of questions that you can ask yourself to go deeper and deeper and deeper into that part of yourself and just figure out what's going on. Sometimes you uncover things that will really surprise you that you haven't thought of for the last 10, 15 years. And yeah, this is all the process. Anyway, that's okay. That one, that one didn't really work out, but that's all right. You got the idea of theory, and so you can still do that practice in yourself. Do a meditation. You know, make 15 minutes a day just to sit with yourself for a while. Yeah. Anyway, lovely. So is there anything that you guys let's just have a conversation. Let's just share some stuff together, and then we'll call it a night, and we'll come back again next week. Danielle, yeah, absolutely. You guys can all unmute stuff now if you like. We can just have a free chat. Yeah.
How do I find the right questions for the right shadow work?
How do you know what questions to ask yourself? Well,
so you have specific shadows, specific scenarios. How do you, I mean, you obviously given us a list of questions.
Yeah.
But is there a way to say, is, for example, book writing always about a success, or how do I find the right question for a particular scenario?
Because of when you, there is actually something very important I didn't share and I was supposed to earlier. My apologies. This is an important part of getting to know your shadow and bringing it to the surface. I think I touched on it last week, but I'll just reinforce it. You basically sit and meditate with your goal, with your dream, with your passion, with your idea, whatever you want, and absolutely embody it. Feel it 100%, like it's real now. You've achieved it, you've done it, you are in it, you are fully embodied in it. Resonate with it, with your goal, with the energy of it. Here's a simple principle rule. When you invest enough energy into something new, if there's any shadows, any parts of yourself that you've suppressed or blocked that is in opposition of it, it must make itself known. It's just a rule. This always happens. So any self-doubts, any fears, any limiting beliefs, they will pop up into your head. You have to really powerfully resonate with this goal. You have to really embody it. And so from that, it could be something that seems a bit silly, completely off. Like, I am going to buy this boat. I bought this boat. I have this boat. It's something I've always wanted for the last 10 years. And then up pops, you're fat. It's this happens. And it seems completely non-relevant. But then you have your first question. You can start with your first shadow questions. It's like, okay, why do I feel fat? And you just listen deeply and you feel like, why am I feeling so fat? Because you never started anything major in your life. Oh, now we're getting a clearer picture. Okay. So what exactly, when did this start? When did this feeling start? Oh, when you tried to buy a bike when you're 15 and you got hit by that car. I know it's weird how these things work sometimes, but you have to basically be able to introspect and deeply listen to yourself and your answers. They will make themselves known, and you'll find a core of, I'm afraid of buying anything new for myself because I'll get hurt. And that's what you might have as a final answer to that. And it's like a revelation. And you can incorporate this part of yourself and go, right, well, that's not relevant in the situation. And you find that fear of buying the boat kind of like lifts, and you can move forward. This is the detective work that we're kind of doing. But first you have to start with resonating that goal. Really embody it, really feel it, and start from there. Write down your answers as well as you go. And so it gives you something to keep going back to. Maybe it'd take you a couple of weeks to actually find your answer. But what you'll do is you'll start clearing your path. It's like cutting the vines out the path in the jungle, and you're going to make your way through. Does that make sense? Yeah, no, awesome. And you can unmute yourself too as well. Feel free to let's have a nice chat. You know, it's a wind down. It's been a good good session, I think.
At the beginning, you told us to write down what we want to achieve today.
Yes, yes.
The first thing I wrote down is, what are the right questions when something is bothering me?
Oh.
So after an hour, I've got this question completely answered.
Fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm glad you get that. It's like that. So you understand then how to use this principle. That's good. So I'll be very interested if during the next week, like if you guys start doing this just in your free time, if you come up with anything, you know, let me know. Like I love to see this process happening. It's a wonderful thing.
About 10 days ago, I saw YouTube about psychology and stuff.
Mm.
And the person was saying, ask why questions. If something is not working, start asking yourself. And now this whole work with you goes into the same direction. So there's a bigger plan unfolding here, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. Well, you've been called to face some stuff, overcome it, and you'll be definitely in a much more enriched, happier person as a result of doing the work. Absolutely guarantee it.
I like it. I like this question.
But once we do the questioning and we've come to understand the why, how do we zap that? I mean, how do we stop it from bothering us?
Okay. Simply the act of uncovering it and acknowledging something that you've been denying, suppressing, just that act alone now brings it into the conscious, and anything in the conscious is subjective to change. So you're going to allow that belief, that whatever that is, to now be changing and adapting. You can invite it to view things from a new perspective. You can subject it to, you can overcome this fear by actually taking its opposite action and proving it to yourself that it's not relevant anymore. Quite simple, really.
So far, some of these questions have led me back to things in my childhood that kind of, but yeah, I'm struggling to find ways of breaking those thought patterns.
Right. Well, it just takes time.
Even though I'm aware of what's caused, why I feel a certain way about things, and I've traced it back, it hasn't actually, I'm aware, but it's still this basic fear or self-doubt is still there, even though I've uncovered it.
Well, just give yourself time. It takes time to change things. It takes time to transform things. Sometimes it helps to do a little self-soothing. Deep meditation practices can be really good as well. Re-envisioning where you want to go or what you want to do. As long as these things are conscious, they'll be actively listening. They'll be actively changing. And so the more you invest into where you actually want to be in your life, how you actually want to be to other people and to yourself, if it's coming from that genuine, I choose happiness place, then it'll transform to align to that over time. But sometimes you just have to be patient in the process. Danielle? Yeah.
So could we use, how we went to that child in the elevator, could we undo it by telling that person in our childhood exactly, hey, it's okay to be that way, or could we use that as a tool?
I like using state of allowance of your feelings are valid. Anything that your inner child is actually feeling, completely valid. And that may be sometimes an even bigger reason to give more love to that part of yourself, to invite them to take part in the transformation process with you. Any part of you can heal, any part of you can grow, and it doesn't have to be forever stuck in the same patterns and cycles. Anything conscious is, anything unconscious stays the same. So as soon as it's conscious, as soon as you bring it out, just let yourself breathe with it and move forward. Keep keep doing something positive for yourself every day, something productive, something constructive. Keep proving to yourself over and over again that you can achieve whatever you set yourself out to achieve. And if you don't, you can find new ways.
Could you write some of those questions out in the chat? So when we listen to the replay, we can look at those questions.
Sure. Yeah, happy to.
Cool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
yeah. Sorry, Danielle. Yeah.
pardon me, what's the archetype to do with the shadow work?
Well, the archetype of the hero is basically like a spirit that we can embody. There's positive archetypes and negative ones. The hero is one who is very relevant to shadow work because it's the one that's willing to dive into the unknown, willing to dive into the unconscious, places that might scare you or frighten you or hurt, like they might feel pain, that kind of thing. The hero is the part of you that is most ready to just basically the unknown, to battle your inner demons, if that makes sense.
So it's best to embody the hero archetype to do this work?
Absolutely. Definitely. Yeah. Find that inner hero in you. Find that strong part of you, the leader.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, great. I hope you guys had a fantastic night. Thank you for being here. It's been wonderful. Is there any questions? A bit of Q&A before we go. Anything else? No, we're all good. Yeah, awesome. It's absolutely lovely to see you all, and I hope this really helps you. So you got a few tools there. So the shadow summoning, we kind of touched on it. The shadow questions, and I'll post those to you as well, Daniela. So you got those there. Just a little bit something to start with. Remember to embody your goals, your visions, your dreams. Resonate with it as if it's real now. Let your questions come up. Detective work your way down. Figure out where your sources of things are, integrate, and allow these things to now enter into the process of change.
It just comes to me that I will do shadow questions in a manner that if I have a problem or if I see an obstacle, I will ask 3 different questions, starting with why, when, what.
Sure.
And then make a sentence, make a question out of it, whatever comes.
Yeah, exactly.
What's it bothering me? What can I do to change it? When did it start or whatever? So yeah.
Yeah, just as long as remember, like, just be careful that you're not just playing mental games with yourself. You're not just going on still bouncing on the surface of things. You got to let yourself get a bit deeper and let yourself feel a bit of the danger, a bit of the unknown, a bit of the, oh, I'm getting some real emotional stuff here, but I'm not afraid of that. I'm going to let myself be real, genuine. As long as you're going in that spirit of things, then you'll get to where you need to get to. You'll uncover all these things in you that have been locked away.
Yeah, I don't want to do it as a intellectual exercise. I want to change things.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you get it. I feel you understand how it works. So yeah, if you guys want to share with me at all during the week, if you have any breakthroughs, if you have any eureka moments, it'd be wonderful to be part of it. If not, I'll anyway see you guys next Sunday, and we're going to go deeper into how to use some of these shadow aspects of ourselves in a really positive way to boost our manifestation. And there's going to be a whole bunch of topics that I'm going to be covering next week as well. So hope to see you then.
Question. Can we start an hour earlier?
Absolutely. As long as Danielle, would that work for you? Yep, great. There's no reason not to. Yeah, we could.
So 8 o'clock New Zealand time.
Done. That'll be 6 o'clock my time on Sunday. That'll be awesome. That all good?
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Happy to do that for you guys. So we'll see you next time. Stay safe, everyone. Love yous. Bye.